Alright everyone, welcome back to another video about the Agent Development Kit. If you saw my last video, you saw how easy it is to create agents using the Agent Development Kit. In this video, I'm going to show you how to supercharge your agent development by integrating it with the Model Context Protocol, otherwise known as MCP. And by popular request, I'll be showing you how to create a multi-agent system. So you have different agents connecting to different MCP servers and different functions. And then you have one coordinating agent that's able to access all of these different sub-agents, so you don't have to manually switch between each of them. But enough talking from me, let me show you what we're building today. Hello, what are you able to do? And you can see it says that it's able to search for hot Reddit posts, summarizes them, and then converts it into speech. Find hot posts from our cursor and our windsurf. This is the reason why I really like the ADK's web interface. After passing this instruction into the agent, you can actually start to step through what exactly is going on under the hood. It's taking this instruction and then passing it on to a second sub-agent, which is called the Reddit Scout agent. It uses a Reddit MCP server to scan through the subreddits and identify the hot topics within them. So it does it for cursor, and then it does it for windsurf. And then these are the hot posts that the MCP server has returned to the sub-agent, which is now passing it back to our AI system. So that's quite a lot of stuff. Well, that's what our second sub-agent is going to be able to do. So let's begin. Let's summarize the above. And now this second transfer to agent step is going to pass it over to a newscaster summarizer agent, taking all the information above and summarizing it. It starts off very much like a newscaster. Here are today's top stories from the subreddits Cursor and Windsurf. So now you can see it's actually summarized all of the topics that it identified above. Now, I'm not going to be reading this out because I'm going to be passing this to yet another agent that's able to convert this into voice. This agent uses the ElevenLabs MCP to be able to do so. Let me show you how. Convert the above to speech. And so now you can see it's passing it to this TTS, which stands for text to speech. And then it's going to get the response back by the text-to-speech MCP server. Show me the file location. And it's saved it onto my desktop.
Here are today's top stories from the subreddits Cursor and Windsurf. Cursor users are discussing the need for a new model in the unlimited quota group, expressing frustration with the current options. A popular post advises treating Cursor like a junior developer, providing step-by-step guidance for optimal performance. Free tier availability is also a hot topic, with some users reporting difficulties accessing it.
The AI is able to take the text and generate speech for you, so you don't actually have to read it out yourself. If you actually hop over to the different subreddits, you will see that it's summarized the topics pretty well. So now you've seen what this AI system is capable of. I will be showing you step by step how you can build your very own multi-agent MCP integrated AI system, just like this. You will be able to take the concepts in building this system, in integrating it with other MCP servers of your choosing, creating multi-agent systems that are capable of many different things apart from summarizing Reddit posts. So are you ready to get started? Let's go. So the very first thing I'm going to do is actually increase the font size so that things are a lot clearer. So if you just clone the repository, what you can do is check out lesson 1. If there's any further updates to this repository in the future, you can always go back to the starting state, which is the end of lesson 1 from last week. If you haven't seen my previous tutorial, it's probably worthwhile looking at what I did at the very beginning, setting up the virtual environment, installing the dependencies in order to have everything that we need to build the agents. But I'll do it very quickly now. The first thing you want to do is to create the virtual environment, and then you want to do source bin activate. You can test this out by checking which Python is running, and then you do pip install -r requirements.txt. And this will ensure that you have all the dependencies that are required for building the agent today. If you remember where we left off last week, what we had was that we had a very simple agent that was able to get the latest news from Reddit. And let's just do a quick demonstration of this right now. So we do ADK run agents Reddit scout. And let's just see it working in action here. I'll say hello, just to check that it's working. It says, how can I help you today? I'm going to say, give me today's hot posts from our game dev. And then it's going to fetch it via the Reddit API, and then it will grab you today's news. This uses the Python library called PRAW, and then this bit of code here goes off and grabs the news from the different subreddits. This entire piece of code here can actually be replaced with an MCP server. Hey, Reddit MCP, could you just give me today's hot news? and you didn't actually need to write all of this code in order to integrate with an API. And this is the power of MCP. People say, I don't see the point of MCP. I can just write an API that uses this. Well, yes, you can, but this requires you to understand how to use the API. And even with AI, you will need to provide the context of the API, and then you have to generate all of this code. So what we're going to do is that we're going to replace this API-driven Reddit Scout with a new Reddit Scout that uses MCP. So how do we do this? All right. So how do we do this? I'm going to exit from here. I'm going to create a new agent. I'm going to call this the async Reddit Scout. When you're working with MCP servers, a lot of time you're actually making asynchronous calls because you're actually making use of an external MCP server, just sending off the instruction, and then you're waiting for the response to come back before moving on. So I will then create an init.py and then agent.py. All right, so we're ready to write today's agent. Rather than doing just def create agent, we are adding the word async in front of it. Add in the comment here, which is basically it creates an agent instance after fetching the tools from the MCP server. You do await get tools async to find the tools that are available. And then I'm going to have a failsafe in case it's not able to get the tools. It's just going to use the default one. And here I'm going to do agent instance equals to agent. And these are the things that you're going to want to provide. So I'm going to call it the async Reddit Scout agent. It searches for hot posts in a given subreddit using the external MCP Reddit tool. I'm going to use Gemini 1.5 Flash, which is sufficient. I'm going to provide an instruction of what it's supposed to be doing. This is very similar to what we did last week. And the last thing to do is to actually pass in the tools that we retrieve from up here. Return the agent instance as well as the exec stack. And that's pretty much it for the create agent function. And root agent equals to create agent, which is the convention that is used in the ADK. And then we also need to remember to do from agent import root agent for the ADK to be able to pick this up. Now, we haven't defined get tools async, and I'm going to provide you with the code. And this code here is pretty much boilerplate. Even though you can see here that we are using the MCP Reddit server, you can actually use this boilerplate for pretty much any other MCP server. Just replace this over here. This boilerplate will automatically then get the tools from that MCP server. And you will see me doing exactly this when I use the ElevenLabs MCP server afterwards. All right, so now the last thing that we need to do is to just bring in all the imports to make sure that we are able to get all the environment variables. Now I'm going to show you why using an MCP server is a lot more powerful than using the API. You go into agents, and then you do ADK web. Okay, so once we're in the web view, select the async Reddit Scout, and let's test it out. So I'll say hello, and it says, I'm ready to fetch Reddit news for you. Which subreddits are you interested in? And I'm going to say, fetch me hot topics from Cursor and Windsor. So you can see it's actually using an MCP tool called fetch Reddit hot threads in order to get you that information. And now it's gotten it from Cursor, so we know it's working. Now for Windsor, you can see it's going to perform a similar tool call on the MCP server. This time it's going to get the information from Windsurf. If you recall, I said that using MCP is a lot more powerful. Why? You didn't actually need to know the details of any API. You didn't really need to know the details of any tools because all of these tools would have been exposed by the MCP server to your agent. You did not need to look into the API documentation and then figure out how to use it and then make sure that you were passing in parameters in the right format, because when you use MCP server, you just use text prompts. It's already aware of what tools are available. It will be able to pick whichever tools that it thinks best for the job, and you actually could get rid of that whole chunk of code and replace it by a very simple boilerplate that actually can be used for any MCP agent. I'll show you how this works with the ElevenLabs text-to-speech MCP server. All right, so we're back in our IDE. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it speaker. So same thing again, we create the init.py file and then the agent.py. You will see that it's almost identical to the Reddit MCP server agent. And that's the point that I was driving home earlier, is that once you have this template for working at MCP servers, you do not need to use any external third-party APIs. You do not need to look into the documentation because they all pretty much work the same way. And that's the power of MCP. So let's start off with creating our agents. Async, definition, create agent. This will create the text-to-speech speaker agent by connecting to the ElevenLabs MCP server via UBX. I'm adding some print logs just to provide some debugging tools, but you can leave them out if you don't wish to. We're going to do the same thing again, where we do tools, exec stack. And actually, maybe the first thing I'm going to do is add all the imports at the top of the file, just to get the auto-completion running. I'm going to do the MCP toolset from server inline here, meaning that I'm not creating a separate get tools that I did for the Reddit one, but you can see in the Reddit agent, it actually uses the same thing here. Await MCP toolset from server, and then it passes in the UVX from command. But in this case, because the ElevenLabs MCP server has already been published onto UVX, you don't actually need to provide a GitHub repository. You can just pass in ElevenLabs MCP and you will know where to pick it up. Now, the only other thing that you need is the ElevenLabs API key. And this is something that you can get by going onto the ElevenLabs website, creating an account, and they are quite generous with the number of free credits that they give you. It should be sufficient enough for you for this tutorial. Just log on and get an API key. Then what you want to do is that go into your .env file. I've opened the example one for now. Add in a new ElevenLabs API key. Go into your real env file and you put in your real ElevenLabs API key. So over here, I'm going to say that it's connected to the ElevenLabs MCP server. And then I'm going to list all the tools that it has just for debugging purposes. And here I'm going to do something a little bit different from the Reddit MCP. Because over here, you can see that I just specified the model to be Gemini 1.5 Flash latest. But actually, the great thing about the ADK is that you can actually use any model that you would like, thanks to LiteLLM. You can use OpenAI models. You can use Anthropic models like Claude. You're not restricted to just the Gemini models, which is fantastic. So even though the ADK is a Google product, it is open source, supports open standards. You can actually see a whole list of different supported models that you can choose from for your task. But in this case, I'm just going to be using Gemini 1.5 Flash latest because it works very well for me. You do need a Google API key, which you can get for free, which I covered in my previous tutorial as well. Here is where you can actually specify things like OpenAI, use other models here like GPT, 4.0 Mini, or you can actually use Claude 3.5, and you can swap anything within here. But I'm going to stick with Gemini for now. And the final thing to do is, once again, create the agent instance. And this time, I'm just going to copy and paste the whole thing here. So the agent instance is called TTS Speaker Agent, converts provided text into speech using the ElevenLabs text-to-speech MCP. It just takes the text provided by the user, and then it converts into audio. And you can set other parameters, such as the voice name that you would like to use, and then how you would like to return the result. And don't forget, at the end of this, to return agent instance and exec stack. So very similar to our Reddit MCP. In fact, it's even shorter. At the end of it, just remember you have to do root agent equals to create agent. I'm going to the init.py, do from agent import agent. So let's try this out. The whole point here is to show you that this pattern of just using MCP toolset from server is all you need to integrate with an MCP server. If it's a published package, you can just specify it here. If you wanted it from a GitHub repository, you just swap this out and use from, and then you pass in the GitHub repository over here. Before I forget, we need to update our requirements.txt to include the LiteLLM dependency. This will ensure that you have the ability to switch models. And then once we do that, we have to always remember to do a pip install requirements. So you can see a lot of the requirements have already been satisfied because the only new thing that we added in was LiteLLM. And with that, we can actually go back into the agents folder, type ADK web. Great. And now we can switch over to our browser view. Once you're back in the ADK web UI, you can now select your speaker. And let's test this out. Hello, what can you do? Always useful to figure out whether it knows what it's capable of before we start tasking it. This says, I'm a text-to-speech agent. I can convert text to speech using the ElevenLabs text-to-speech MCP. I will use the will voice, which is what we specified it to be. So let's do this. Please convert to speech. If you are enjoying this tutorial video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, AI Oriented. Don't forget to turn on notifications. So let's give this a shot. It's going to use the text-to-speech tool in the MCP server, and it says it's actually converted it and the audio has been saved. And what you usually can do here is ask it, show me the file path. And I think by default, it saves it onto your desktop. So it does. And I'm going to play this for you here.
If you are enjoying this tutorial video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel AI Oriented on YouTube. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications.
Great. Now you've got an agent that's able to connect to an MCP server and make use of the text-to-speech tool. And you can see all of these other tools here, right? You can clone your voice, you can isolate the audio, you can add knowledge base to agent, you can create voice from preview, you can do so much other stuff. And the beauty of this is that you didn't have to look at the parameters that you need to pass into each of these tools, and which API to call. This is all automatically exposed thanks to MCP. So now I hope you've seen the power of combining agents from the ADK together with MCP. We've really created a Reddit agent that is able to scan for news. And then now we have another agent that's able to take text and convert it to speech. All right, so we've created two new agents today that connect to MCP servers. The last two agents that we're going to write are very quick because all we need now is just one agent that is able to take the output from the Reddit agent because it gives you a lot of information. We just want the agent to be able to summarize that in a form of a news anchor. And then the last agent will just be the coordinator that will know how to call these individual agents in sequence. All right. So I'm going to do this very quickly now. So it's the same pattern again. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call this summarizer. And once again, do the init.py and agent.py. You catch the drill. The ADK is so simple and I love it. For the summarizer agent, we're not going to need to do anything too complicated this time. We're just going to use Gemini again, but we're going to use LiteLLM. And then all it does is that you are a news anchor summarizing Reddit headlines. Give a list of post titles in a clear, engaging summary in a newscaster style. Highlight themes or interesting points. And then start with an anchor intro. And that's the summarizer agent. We don't need to test this because it's actually a very simple agent, but we do need to remember to do from agent import root agent. All right. And then the final one that we're going to do is called the coordinator agent. And init.py, agent.py. For the coordinator agent, it's going to be fairly similar. I'm just going to put in a bunch of imports. The main thing that you want to import the Reddit scout agent, the summarizer agent, and the speaker agent. Do async def create coordinator agent. Create an exec stack. This is pretty standard. You don't have to worry too much about that. Create the Reddit agent, the summarizer agent, as well as the speaker agent. The agent does not have a stack because it's a synchronous agent. We will create the LLM. We will just use Gemini again. And like I said, you can swap this out with any other model that you would like using LiteLLM. And then we just create the coordinator agent over here. Very simple. It just coordinates finding Reddit posts, summarizing titles, and converting text to speech. And then you specify it in the instruction so that it knows that it has the 3 different agents to use. And then some specific instructions about how to deal with the user's prompts. Don't forget that you then need to put in subagents, Reddit agent, summarizer agent, and speaker agent. And that's pretty much all you need to do for it to be able to coordinate. So you don't have to go to individual subagents anymore. You can just use one AI agent and have access to all 3 subagents. Remember to do root agent equals to create coordinator agent. And then in here, from agent import root agent. So now we are ready to give this a final test. Clear the console. Remember to be in your agents folder. Run ADK web. And then we will launch the browser once again. All right. So this time you choose the coordinator. What are you? And it says, I'm a coordinator agent that finds hot Reddit posts, summarizes their titles, and converts text to speech. So this time, I'm just going to focus on just one subreddit. So I say, get hot posts from cursor. It's going to transfer this to the agent. It's going to call its tool, fetch Reddit hot threads, and then it's going to throw the response back to the agent over here. So in case you missed it, this is what these arrows signify, whether it's going out or coming in. So here it is. And you can see these are the very long posts that are within it. So I can say, please summarize it like a newscaster. And now it's going to transfer it to the second agent, which is the newscaster agent. We see here. And then it's going to then summarize it. So it says, here are today's top stories from the cursor subreddit. And it's talking about GPT 4.1 and O4 mini. And then the final agent that we're going to be doing is that please convert that text to speech. It's supposed to now go to the text-to-speech speaker agent. It's sending it and calling the text-to-speech tool. And then it says, here's the audio URL that's been generated. And let's try it out.
Here are today's top stories from the Cursor subreddit. GPT 4.1 and O4 mini are going premium tomorrow, sparking cost concerns among users. One user asks, isn't it time for a new model in the unlimited tier? Meanwhile, another Redditor offers advice on using Cursor effectively, suggesting treating it like a junior dev and guiding it step by step. Also trending, a weekly project showcase thread invites users to share their Cursor creations. And finally, some users report difficulties accessing the free version.
And there you have it. You have your multi-agent MCP integrated AI system working. Most of the agents were just boilerplate code. In fact, the MCP part of it was pretty much the same across the different agents. And I hope that this tutorial has demonstrated to you the power of using the ADK as well as MCP. Now, as a final bonus thing, what I did was that I went to Midjourney and I just asked it to generate a 3D avatar of a geeky newscaster presenting news in a newsroom. I went over to Kling AI, popped the image in there and asked it to generate a video of a newscaster talking. And then what you can do here is lip sync. I'm going to upload the file that we just got, and then I'm going to use this to actually generate a video of a newscaster speaking it out. Great. I'm going to do the confirm trimming, and then once you have that, I'm going to click generate, and then it's going to take 12 minutes to generate this. Once it's done, you can see the final result.
Here are today's top stories from the Cursor subreddit. GPT 4.1 and O4 Mini are going premium tomorrow, sparking cost concerns among users.
Now, I actually know that there are MCP servers out there that do image generation for you, and there's probably one that does video generation as well. I haven't had time to look into it. If you do find an MCP server that does image generation, you can create a new agent, ask your coordinator to call that agent to create the image. If you can find another MCP server that does image to video, you can pass that on into the image to video and then do dubbing as well. And this is the reason why combining agents with MCP via the ADK is so exciting. I really hope that this tutorial has been useful for you. All of the code is available, and if you found this tutorial useful, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content like this, turn on notifications so that you will be one of the first to know whenever one of these new videos drops. Till next time, see ya!